This conference will now be recorded.
Anita, good? All right. I'd like to call to order tonight's council meeting. It's 7 p.m., January 20th, 2021. Stephanie, would you do roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Totino.
Present.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Flanagan.
Here.
Councilmember Barton. We see you, Anita. Okay. Councilmember Stokely.
Here.
Vice President Sokolowski.
Here.
President Leonard will note for the record that she is absent this evening, and Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We have everybody present and accounted for. So let's start tonight with a prayer for council. Ms. Totino, would you mind doing the prayer this evening?
Sure. O divine master, in deep humility, we place ourselves, our thoughts, and our plans in thy hands. We beg thee to fill our minds and our wills with the gifts of wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, and piety. Help us not to think of self or personal desires, but rather consider the responsibilities laid upon us. Help us to promote as far as possible the welfare of our people and to treat them with impartiality and justice. Grant us the power to set a good example in thought, word, and deed, so that thy blessings will be showered upon us and the people we represent. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you for joining us on our regularly scheduled public voting session. At this time, please mute all of your audio lines. No public comments will be permitted during the course of the meeting until the designated public comment section located on the agenda. You'll be notified during the meeting when public comments are permitted. You may also submit written comments via email to brogers@conshahockenpa.gov. That's BROGERS@conshahockenpa.gov. A member of the Borough Administration will read the public comments submitted in this manner. For all comments, please make sure you include your name, address, and address for the record. And we thank you in advance for the cooperation during this remote meeting. Today we're going to start with some presentations, and I'm going to turn it over to the mayor to give an inauguration day community message for us. Mayor Aronson.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Sokolowski. The violence that occurred on January 6th in Washington, D.C. was shocking, frightening, and unacceptable. Much like September 11th, this is a reflection point for all of us in our actions, our rhetoric, in our discourse with one another. Democracy was founded on disagreement and compromise. It is a sometimes slow and messy process by design, but it ensures that the will of voters is taken into account on major decisions. When we lose the ability to have these conversations, when policy disagreements turn into personal attacks, destructive criticism, or unfounded conspiracy theories designed to be deliberately malicious and hurtful, we lose the ability to function as a democracy. When those that disagree with us become enemies instead of fellow citizens with opposing points of view, it is impossible to find common ground and do the work of being active citizens and responsible elected officials. Sometimes what happens at the state and federal level can feel disconnected from us as we go about our everyday lives. This is not the case here locally in Conshohocken. Your council, mayor, emergency services, and department heads meet publicly twice every month. We have active email addresses, phone numbers, and social media. We run into residents as we drop off our dry cleaning, in the bread aisle at Weiss, and while attending our many community events. While we certainly have disagreements in policy within these council meetings or in discussions with residents, it is hard to think of anyone in this borough as an enemy. We are all interested in making our little part of this country a more fair, peaceful, and equitable place to live, though we may differ on how we get there. You only have to look at what is being accomplished here tonight in this meeting to see how effective, peaceful, and yes, sometimes messy work is accomplished on behalf of residents. We ask that all of you seeing and hearing this message reject violence in pursuit of political goals, encourage all of you to become active and engaged members of the borough community. There is room for all ideas, discussions, compromises, and visions through peaceful actions, volunteerism, and local processes. The answer is always community. We are stronger together than as 8,000 individuals. We won't always agree, but we will get our collective goals as friends and neighbors. On behalf of Borough Council, our administration, and emergency services, we wish you all peace and safety in this difficult time for our country politically, and for all of us personally through the pandemic. And thank you for being with us here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Aronson. The next presentation will be a recognition award for 32 years of service to Ralph Gambale, one of our public services workers. Ray Sokolowski, would you like to take this recognition?
Thank you, Mayor, for those very heartfelt and appropriate words from today. I want to talk about Ralph Gambale. Ralph Gambale has been an employee for the Borough of Conshohocken for 32 years. He recently retired. He retired under the flag of the COVID situation, so we would have rather have done this in person and been able to have a dinner, luncheon, and gone out afterwards, but unfortunately we have to do it this way for now. But I did promise him that once this is all over with, we will have our night out. Ralph, again, is an employee for 32 years in the Borough of Conshohocken. Most people who live in Conshohocken will know who he is. He was not only a public works employee, but he lived in the community for a long time, and he not only lived, worked, but he also was an active member of the community. He's still a member of the CBC Club, and people go to the CBC Club, they know the familiar face of Ralph when they go there. I'm going to speak personally from when I took over at Public Works. It was difficult for someone to walk into the door without a lot of knowledge of the people that work down there, and I was often looking for somebody to have some to give me some inspiration and some guidance as to how to proceed with the employees there and the people in the borough and how they react to the public works employees. I'm sorry, the public service employees. And Ralph was one of those guys. He bought into our process. He helped it along. He was not a hindrance to it. And because of that, he made my life a lot easier. And I think we have now a good outcome in the public services department, and he was a big part of that. Anyone who spends 32 years in the same career deserves a lot of recognition, and I don't think this is enough, but this is the best we can do right now. And like I said, we will have our night out. I'm going to invite Ralph up to the podium to say a few words. He doesn't do that often in public, but he's going to give it a shot, he said.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Ray. I appreciate everything. It's been a pleasure to work with the borough, and I've got so many people to thank. Everybody knows who they are. I enjoyed working with all the employees I worked with for all the years. Some aren't around anymore, but some are, but I just loved everybody who worked here. You guys always took care of me, especially a lot of people at the total end. Angela, I want to thank you for all you've done for me and everybody else. So I just want to thank everybody for 32 years. I'm going to miss it. It was more emotional when I left than I thought it would be. And thanks, everybody. I really appreciate this. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
Ralph, on behalf of council, we appreciate all that you've given to the community as a worker and as a resident. And wow, 32 years. That is something to be super proud of, and we're proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one
just
more.
going to give Ralph his plaque and the jacket that the borough purchased for him or got for him for his retirement. It's his favorite color, red.
Thanks, I appreciate all this. Thank you very much.
Yay, Papa!
Yay, Papa.
I love my grandkids.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Ralph. All right, our next recognition is, again, Ray Sokolowski will be recognizing the recipients of our fire stipend program.
My grandkids now.
Yes, last 2020, the Borough of Conshohocken started a stipend program for their volunteer firefighters. We didn't, when we first started the stipend program, we didn't know how successful it will be or if it will be successful at all. With Tim Gunning, the fire chief's guidance through the whole process, it was very clear, probably mid-year, that this was going to be more than a success, more of a success than we ever imagined. So currently, 24 members were eligible for the stipend based on the amount of points they received. To make it so everyone understands, you needed 100 points in order to receive a stipend check from the borough. The top member for the top firefighter had 621 points. To just think of the dedication and time that it takes for someone to accumulate those points because they gave up time away from their family, sometimes away from their work, weekends, nights. It's overwhelming to see that we had such a great turnout. We have 24 members. Both fire companies and fire police are on this list of stipend recipients. So I just want to take a second to identify them and to congratulate them. So I'm going to start with Drew Everston. He had 621 points. He was the top point recipient. Calvin Perlman, 581 points. Dan Costello, 570 points. Chris Dixon, 531 points. Tom Sesko, 494 points. Ed Dunn, 484 points. Taylor Verkakis, 454 points. John Costello, 427 points. Rob Curl, 426 points. Gus Kemp, 418 points. Mike Yingling, 400 points. Leo Costello, 310 points. John Droz, 222 points. Dave Murphy, 222 points. Gary Davis, 198 points. Gary Davis is also paid firefighter for White Marsh Township. Kristen Davis, who's also a borough employee, 171 points. Ron Gianizelli, 160 points. Justin Coogan, 142 points. George Dietzel, 100 points. Chris Boynton, 100 points. Carol Davis, who's with the fire police, 100 points. Clinton Wakefield, 100 points. Ray Thornton, 100 points, and Bob Phipps, 100 points. So 24 members got the stipend. It's more than what we ever imagined. And again, I want to make sure that we recognize these people for what they do. It is taking a lot of time out of their lives in order to accumulate these type of points. And again, just an appreciation to them, and especially to Tim Gunning, because Tim Gunning is the spark that makes this flame work. So, thank you.
On behalf of council, I just want to say thank you to all of our volunteers. We are a very, very lucky community to have a thriving volunteer fire department in these times. And it's because of the dedication of our volunteers that we've been successful in keeping our community safe. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope I speak for all of council. Okay, moving on to the next section of our agenda. Land use matters, public hearings and ordinances. The first item is consider granting conditional use approval for 400 West Elm Street. Mr. Peters, would you mind opening the conditional use hearing and read the conditions?
No problem. And unfortunately, I don't have any fire funds like Ray does, but regardless, yes, Ed, if we could go on the record, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Peters.
This is the scheduled date and time for the continuation of application number Z-2020-15, the application of Corson Street Acquisition LP for the property located at 400 West Elm Street. Council considered this application at their work session. Again, it is an application for conditional use to permit a multifamily residential development in the SP3 zoning district. The record was closed at your work session on January 6, 2020, and we're here this evening for a vote. As with all conditional use applications, in the event that council is inclined to grant the conditional use this evening, there are certain conditions that administration would recommend. Those are, number one, that construction of the project be consistent with the representations made in the application and during the hearing, including but not limited to the architectural renderings presented at the hearing as Exhibit A12. The applicant shall obtain land development approval for the project consistent with its conditional use application and the representations made in the application and during the hearing, and shall comply with any conditions of that land development approval. Applicant shall comply with all conditions of Resolution 6 of 2018. And to remind council, that is the resolution approving land development approval for the prior office use, except to the extent modified by this approval, and of course in the land development approval required by condition 2, and that is to, amongst other things, accommodate the change in use. Applicant has agreed to and shall pay a traffic impact fee in the amount of $500,000, subject to a credit for the design work funded by applicant for traffic improvements at the intersection of Fayette and West Elm Streets. That credit will be subject to Borough Council's approval during the land development approval process. Applicant shall execute such agreements as shall be required by the Borough for public use of the public park and recreational facilities, including specifically agreements for continued maintenance of the facilities by the applicant in perpetuity, provided that those facilities are consistent in scope with the renderings offered by applicant as exhibits A21, A22, and A23. The applicant is here this evening along with his attorney, Lou Colagreco. Council can ask additional questions if they'd like to. Again, we did close the hearing, so if you're inclined, it would be appropriate to take a vote at this time. And if that motion is to approve, I would suggest that it be a motion to approve conditional use approval with the conditions as I just enumerated them.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Does council have any additional questions? Okay, with no response to additional questions, may I have a motion to approve the conditional use application for 400 West Elm Street to be memorialized in a formal written decision with the conditions outlined this evening by Mr. Peters?
I'll make that motion. Ike Griffin.
I'll second. Anita Barton.
We have a motion and a second. All approved?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, council members.
The applicant and I will issue a written notice of decision tomorrow to your attention. And
Thank
I
you very
do
much.
stay on for one more thing, as you know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
The second, the second portion is to consider adopting ordinance 1 2021, the Residential Overlay District Ordinance Amendment. Mr. Peters?
Thank you very much. Ed, if we could go on the record for this hearing, please. This is the scheduled date and time for the continued hearing on an ordinance amending the Borough zoning ordinance. That ordinance specifically repeals in its entirety Part 19B of the zoning ordinance, which previously permitted certain residential use in the limited industrial district. Residential use under this amendment will no longer be permitted in the limited industrial district. The hearing was closed on January 6th. The matter was advertised at that time as required by the MPC, and this council received public comment at that time, as well as an explanation from both me and Mr. Sokolowski. At this time, all that's left is the need for a formal vote on this application. And with that, Ms. Sokolowski, I will turn it back over to you.
Okay. Council, do I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 01-2021, repealing the Residential Overlay District and amending the zoning ordinance as described?
I'll make that motion, Tutino.
I'll second Flanagan.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And with that, Ed, thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Peters. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, next item on the agenda will be consider authorizing an advertisement of Ordinance 02-2021, SP4 District Sign Standard Ordinance Amendment. Mr. Peters, would you like to
Thank you
review?
very much. This matter is before council this evening only for a vote to authorize advertisement. So we reviewed this amendment in detail at your last meeting, including each and every provision. It's not that terribly long. It now needs to go through a process of going to your planning commission, going to the Montgomery County Planning Commission. And if it passes through both of those bodies, it will be back before you for a vote. To start that process, however, it is your past practice and it is good practice to first authorize advertisement so that the Planning Commission and the Montgomery County Planning Commission don't go through a process of reviewing an ordinance that council is not at least amenable to considering. So this evening, the only matter that's on the floor would be a motion to advertise.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Council, do I have a motion to authorize advertisement of Ordinance 02-2021, amending the SP4 District Sign Standards?
I'll make that motion.
You know,
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. First item is to approve and adopt the December 2nd and December 16 regular meeting minutes. The second item is to approve the December ending treasurer's report and accounts payable. Ms. Checo, could you tell us what that accounts payable amount is, please?
Yes, the accounts payable is in the amount of $642,551.84.
Thank you. So first item I'll put out for a motion is to approve and adopt the December 2nd and December 16th regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Griffin.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Anita.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Second motion I will need is to approve the December ending treasurer's report and accounts payable report in the amount of $642,551.84. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Tutino.
I'll second Flanagan.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Okay, next item on the agenda is new business. At this point, I'm going to ask our Borough Manager, Stephanie Checco, to present the new business on the agenda, please.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President Sokolowski. The first item is to approve tuition reimbursements for Detective Walter and Officer Ben. These reimbursements are part of their collective bargaining agreement. So I would just need a motion to approve tuition reimbursements for Walter and Bon.
I'll make that motion. Griffin.
I'll second Anita Barton.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries.
The next item is a zoning escrow release for 1023 Fayette Street. This project is closed out. The report is processed. The account is now closed. The escrow release is in the amount of $586.34. I would just need a motion to approve that release.
I'll make that motion. Tutino.
I'll second Flanagan.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
The next item, unfortunately, Jennifer McCracken, who is part of the Marywood Park Commission, has moved out of the borough, and she also does not have any business linking her to the borough. So unfortunately, she has to resign her position on the Marywood Park Commission. In order to do that, I need a motion to formally accept her resignation, and then we will advertise the open position.
I'll make that motion with sadness.
I know.
I'll second it. Tutino.
We have an emotion. We have a motion and a second.
Yeah,
And an
emotional.
emotion.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
The next
With
item
the-
is, sorry. The next item is an escrow release for demolition for Matson Mill. The demolition is complete. Our engineer has inspected the site and has signed off on it, and construction has started. So I need a motion to approve the first and final escrow release for demolition for Matson Mill in the amount of $152,333.50.
Council,
I'll
do
make
I have
that
a motion?
motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Aye, Griffin.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
And Vice President Sokolowski, this item is not on the agenda, but Mr. Peters will be discussing a reasonable accommodation case, which was brought to administration's attention. And we need to make sure the council is aware of the request and the solution proposed by administration. So Mr. Peters, if you want to just briefly explain the accommodation request that we received.
Thank you, Ms. Checco, and I can be brief. Council in the borough has not received one of these, at least since I've been involved over the last 10 years, but reasonable accommodation requests come in, and they come in because an individual is has a handicap or is otherwise disabled, as that term is understood under the ADA, and therefore asks for an accommodation of your ordinances to allow them to reside in their home as would any resident of the borough. This specific individual, and this evening I'm not going to give you an address or a name, but both of those are certainly subject to your review, only because the request contains medical information. I'd like to keep it private. However, it will be on file with the borough. So a request came in for an individual who, through medical documentation, does have a disability, as that term is understood under the ADA, and has requested a driveway to the front of their property. As you are very well aware, as a general matter, driveways are not permitted in the front of residential dwellings within the borough. When these requests come in, they either are handled administratively, or if there's an ordinance in place, they're handled subject to that ordinance. Your administration has reviewed this request, both the materials submitted and done a site evaluation. and is prepared to issue the reasonable accommodation request to permit a driveway on the identified property in the front of the dwelling, subject to certain conditions. Those conditions would include that the driveway be removed within 6 months if the individual no longer maintains the property as their primary residence, that no tree shall be removed from the property for purposes of installing the driveway, that cars parked in the driveway won't block the sidewalk, and that the driveway will be graded so that all water runoff is controlled on the property and does not run off onto neighboring properties. And finally, of course, that the applicant will obtain the necessary permits from the borough. I don't need anything from you this evening, but I do need you to know, should construction start and you wonder why there was no approval, it is because of this reasonable accommodation request that came in. Now, in the future, we can consider whether or not you'd like to change the approach. You can have reasonable accommodations approved by council if we put them in an ordinance. But for this specific one, I think administration has handled it well. So nothing that we need from you this evening. And again, I will share both the address and the specific information if asked offline.
Okay.
And that's it, Ms. Checo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Welcome.
Okay, next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Ms. Checo, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Vice President Sokolowski. The two items that are under unfinished business relate to the sewer authority, specifically the request for bids and also the ordinance which requires the Borough of Conshohocken Authority to convey the sewer authority to the borough. Just as a refresher, we started this process back in 2018, specifically in May of 2018, where our engineer did a presentation on an infrastructure plan. The cost of that infrastructure plan was expected to be around or in excess of $30 million. And the reason why we engaged in that process of the infrastructure plan was in an effort to make the Borough of Conshohocken a more welcoming place for residents and visitors. We feel that the road improvement project is important. And we started seeking methods by which to fund those improvements with the best interests of residents in mind. In 2020, we did do a tax increase, and that again was done in public, and it positioned the borough to potentially be able to take on additional financing or take on more debt. So that was definitely a positive step taken by this council in particular. In 2020, we also began the sewer sale exploration process. So we are well over a year in terms of going through this process in particular. Over the course of that year, funding sources for infrastructure projects have become even more limited, especially given the additional constraints on resources due to COVID-19. With that in mind, the best options to fund this project are either raise taxes or sell a borough asset, and we are simply in the process of exploring a potential sale of the sewer authority, which could be in the best interest of our residents. To date, we have done an evaluation of basically the entire organizational structure of the borough. This is just along the same lines in terms of that process and those procedures. And the sale of the sewer authority, again, is just one option that Borough Council is considering. Nothing has been put into place as of yet. So I think for tonight, again, the only thing that is in front of you for consideration is, again, advertisement of the bid documents and also advertisement of the ordinance. There is no formal action being taken other than advertisement. And I guess I just want to stress again and highlight the fact that this process has not been rushed. It's actually 3 years in the making. Council has done their due diligence in looking at all different financing options. They're doing their due diligence on behalf of the residents in engaging in this process. It's a difficult process. They should be commended for doing so. And again, all decisions will be made in public. The residents and businesses will have the opportunity to see the data and the information and basically the value of the asset as we receive that information in from the conclusion of the process. And again, we welcome everyone. We meet the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday of every month. And as we continue to move through this process over the course of 2021, the topic of the sewer authority will again be on the agenda. And we welcome the feedback and the input of the community, as again, we are doing our due diligence to determine what is the best for the long-term financial stability of the borough. So with that, the first item is to consider authorizing advertisement of the sewer authority RFP. And if it is approved this evening, that request for bids will be published tomorrow.
I'll make that motion, Tutino.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Ray Griffin.
A motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And this was a motion to authorize advertisement of the sewer authority RFP for the purposes of working through identifying the asset and what it's worth. Okay, we have a second.
Vice President Sokolowski, I apologize for jumping ahead in making my motion. I didn't give you an opportunity to
Oh,
read
no,
it.
that's okay. That's okay. All right. Ms.
And then
Checa?
the next item is to consider authorizing advertisement of Ordinance 3 of 2021, requiring the Borough of Conshohocken Authority to convey the sewer authority.
So this motion is to authorize advertisement of Ordinance 303/2021, requiring the Borough of Conshohocken Authority to convey the sewer authority. Do I have a motion on the floor?
I'll make that
Can I
motion.
just-
Tutino.
Can I just ask something? Would you explain to anyone who's listening what convey of the sewer authority means? Thank you.
Yes, so in essence, Councilmember Barton, this ordinance, in essence, starts the process of the potential conveyance of the sewer authority and the asset to the borough for the potential sale. So at this point, in essence, the sewer authority continues to operate as is. And it's putting them basically on notice that there is the intent that this could happen in the future. And for this evening in particular, it is an advertisement only. And it should be noted that we have reached out to the sewer authority board members, and to no surprise, they are willing and wanting to sit down and meet with us, which I think is a testament to kind of Borough Council and also the sewer authority board members and how much time they devote, their personal time that they devote to kind of making sure that the borough and the sewer authority operate so efficiently. So that is, I just would like everyone to understand that we will be having that meeting with representatives from council and from the sewer authority to kind of work through some of the items in the process. So all positive, and then as we go through, again, as we move through the motions, it'll be back on an agenda for consideration. Does that help?
Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that description. So again, we have a motion on the table to authorize advertisement of Ordinance 03/2021, requiring the Borough of Conshohocken Authority to convey the sewer authority. Do I have a motion?
I'll make
that motion, Barton.
And a second?
I'll second it, Tutino.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? Okay, motion carries. And again, this is part of the process for identifying what our asset is worth. And we will have lots of time for discussion as we move forward once we get the information back and we have some additional conversations between the two boards. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time of the agenda, we are coming up to the public comment section. Ms. Rogers, do you have any written submitted comments related to the agenda or any items
Yes.
on the agenda?
Yes. 3 public comments were submitted via email.
Okay.
The first comment is from Lisa Lilick, 804 Forest Street. Ms. Lilick writes, I am requesting that you please delay your vote on the agenda items that pertain to the potential sale of our sewer system. While I was assured by Councilmember Anita Barton that you are looking and that there is no sale going on yet, all of your actions thus far and the items you are voting on tonight all point in that direction. It seems that you are putting all the ducks in a row that are necessary for the sale. I have not only read about the rate increases other town residents, such as Limerick, have experienced. I know individuals who have had this happen in another town whose bill eventually doubled within a short number of years. Because this particular decision will affect all of the residents of Conshohocken directly, I am asking that you take extra measures to notify all of them in more direct manner so that they have the opportunity to express their opinion. Perhaps a notice, such as the ones mailed out to residents regarding zoning variances requested in their ward. I think we deserve to know why you are thinking of doing this and what your plans are for the profit, since the residents will be paying for this in the long run. Basically, you will be selling the one utility where you have the control over the rate increases, which is not making a profit off of the residents and gets grants from the state, to a private company whose sole purpose is to make money off of the residents and consumers. Once sold, and after the initial rate freeze time period is over, you no longer have control over this. If you haven't already, speak to Plymouth Township and Upper Merion officials who decided against selling. What did they base their decision on? Again, please delay this vote and continue to look, but from the perspective of your residents, not just the windfall of cash you may be focusing on. Thank you, Lisa Lilick. The second comment was submitted by Sean Berge, 109 Forest Street. Mr. Berge writes, having read up on what the sale of a town sewer system means for the residents, I am asking that council delay their votes tonight so that every effort can be made to ensure that all Conshohocken residents are informed of what you are thinking of doing. While it is not a done deal at this point, it appears that you are lining up everything so that the sale can be done quickly if you decide to go forward. In discussing and voting on a sale of this magnitude, every effort should be made to ensure that all residents are aware of what is going on. Not everyone is online to see notices and agendas. Our senior residents, for example. Additionally, people are currently under a lot of stress with things like COVID and job loss and aren't keeping up with what is on your agenda. Much like the zoning board notices, I feel that residents should be informed by mail. If you decide to go forward with this, every resident will be affected by rate increases once the initial freeze is lifted. I do not know the reasons as to why the council is looking into this. Perhaps there is something for which the town needs financing. Rather than a permanent sale of this valuable, publicly created asset that would mean increases for residents and lack of local control, can the council provide information about alternative funding strategies that they considered? For instance, a low-interest municipal bond seems like a better and more responsible funding strategy than a one-time sale of an asset such as our sewer system. I implore the council to give my comments your consideration. Thank you, Sean Berge. And I just received another one. The third one is from Anna Marie Traveline, West 10th Avenue. Ms. Traveline writes, as a resident of Conshohocken, I do not want to see our sewer plant sold. No one has a bigger stake in protecting the present sewer authority than the people that will be directly affected by the sale, and that is the customers of the present sewer authority. The customers of those townships and boroughs that sold their sewer authorities now face large rate increases, some up to 15 cents, such as Limerick Township. Act 12 is a utilities dream come true. A roadway to enable companies like Aqua and Pennsylvania American Water to become monopolies, buying up municipal sewer, water, and even gas systems. Using its customers jacked up rates to finance its takeovers and eliminating the municipality's reasonable rates with inflated rates for profit. Last year, I attended the January 2020 Borough meeting where a presentation was given by one of the sewer board members detailing the operations of the authority and why it should not be sold. At that time, Borough Council said they were only looking into the possibility of selling the authority. Wow, and here we are. Now Council wants to sell the sewer authority. If I get a vote, it is no sale of the Conshohocken Sewer Authority. Thank you. Anna Marie Traveline. And the fourth comment is from Matt Winarski, 356 East 6th Avenue. Mr. Winarski writes, I'm concerned with the track record of Aqua purchasing our sewer system. The track record of Aqua is to significantly raise rates after the fixed period expired, as they are a for-profit business. I would urge Council to reconsider all other options and would ask for Council to delay the vote. That concludes the written public comments that we've received. It would now be appropriate to hear any public comments on the call.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rogers. Do we have anyone on the meeting that would like to add public comment this evening?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Walt Hartnett. I'm the commander of the VFW in Conshohocken. I'm not going to talk about the sewer authority. I kind of have another topic. On February 2nd, the VFW is going to be celebrating our 88th anniversary. We were founded on February 2nd in 1933, and Marywood Park House is where we signed our charter. We're going to have an event on February 2nd. We're going to try to have it in our parking lot if the weather permits. And we're going to have a little bit of a festivity just celebrating our anniversary and our time that we've been in the Conshohocken Borough. We just wanted to make council aware and invite all of you to attend. As always, we've always had a great relationship with council, and we appreciate everything that you do for us as a veteran community and as the VFW at large.
Thanks, Mr. Hartnett. Are you also doing a renaming at the same time?
Yeah,
Or...
so the renaming, so the VFW, so for a long time, the VFW is actually two buildings. We go by the VFW as our title, but the Conshohocken Veterans Association has always been what we call our canteen and what our fundraising arm, as everybody understands, the bar. We are publicly, as far as like Google and as what we're doing on Facebook and things like that, we're going by Conshohocken Veterans Authority, because we've kind of shifted our model to where we're not just going to be a VFW, but we are also, we constituted an American Veterans. The difference is, to be a VFW member, we can't serve every veteran. If you didn't serve in a foreign ward, you can't be a member of the VFW. To be a member of AMVETS, you just have to be a veteran of any service, and you can join AMVETS. One of the hardest things I've done since I've been the commander is when I have a veteran come in, they may not have served in war, and they're like, can I become a member? And it's like, yeah, you can become a social member, but so can the guy who's been laying brick in Conshohocken and never, served wore a uniform or served a day in his life. So we wanted to kind of expand it and allow those members to also be active members within the post. And it also brings their families in. It just opens our tent up more. So no, we're not going through an official renaming. We're going to just go by Conshohocken Veterans Authority. We'll still be the VFW building because some of the old guys who come in there, that's what they always know us as. We're the vets, and that's kind of what we're moving forward to. But as we publicly persona it out and we like social media and things like that, we're going to be going more by the Conshohocken Veterans Association, so people feel welcome to come in our doors.
Thanks for explaining that. That's very helpful. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, I heard someone else for public comment.
Yes, Is that okay? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Just give us your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name is Rachel Fecco. I don't know if I'm able to give public comment as I'm a resident of Norristown and not Conshohocken. Is that okay?
Mr. Peters?
Generally speaking, no. This council has limited public comment to residents. So certainly council can make a determination that they'd like to expand it. But I think you should be prioritizing your residents this evening.
So based on that information, I am going to ask Ms. Fecco to continue to follow the updates as we go through the process. Again, we are not voting on selling the sewer authority in any of the motions that were carried this evening. We are going through the process of identifying the value of an asset of the Borough of Conshohocken so that we understand how we will fund a $30 million road program as we move forward. So Ms. Fecco, I would ask that you come back at a later time when we get closer to the point of really having discussions related to the sale of a sewer authority.
Okay. I find it interesting that you have Aqua representatives and Dalcora representatives on your call, if that's the stage that you're in, but that's fine. I will be following it.
Yep, this is a public meeting, so anyone can join our meetings and listen. Unfortunately, we do not take public comments right now from outside of our residents. So thank you.
Understood.
Do we have any additional residents that would like public comment? Okay. If we have no additional public comment, let's turn it over. Do we have any council members? Mr. Stokely.
I have a question about the vaccine. Has any of our people been vaccinated in Conshohocken?
Yes, Bob, we have some first responders that have been vaccinated, ambulance, fire, and police.
The police and the fire have been vaccinated.
There's a percentage of the individuals that have been vaccinated as of today, yes.
Okay, thank you. How about Marshall Lee Towers? Has anybody been vaccinated in there?
This came out, Bob.
The county just released, the county just released a site to register for vaccination. I believe it was this week.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this afternoon on the news, I heard Valar Kush say that there are 80,000 residents in Montgomery County that have signed up so far on that registry. So people are engaged, and we're just hoping we can get everyone vaccinated as soon as possible.
Well, we did such a good job of keeping the virus out of Conshohocken. I mean, what we did is shut the parks down and all. I think we really need to get our residents vaccinated as soon as possible. I think they deserve it.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Flanagan?
I just want to go along with what Bob said, that it's very important for everyone to take the initiative to sign up, because no one's going to come to your door and ask if you want the vaccine. You have to be proactive. And I was trying to get on the website to register, and as of last night, about 4:45, I was number 200 in line, and they closed the line. So again, there was no vaccine available today at all on that website. So everyone's going to have to be persistent. And we are only getting 5,000 doses. I don't know if that was a week that Valar Kush said. That was in today's news. So it's not, compared to how many people signed up, 80,000. It's going to be the person with the most drive that's going to get out there. And if you have elderly people in your family, I urge you to help them navigate the websites and all of that, because it is difficult. So that's all. Thank you. Be safe.
And Jane, what is the website? What are some of the resources that we?
PA.gov, and then there, the little box for COVID-19. You go to that, then a pull-down menu. where to get vaccinated, go to that. It takes you to a map of Pennsylvania. And then on that map, you have to try and guess which little dot is our town. And, you know, there's some in the area, and, you know, it'll tell you there's not vaccine available within 50 miles of 19428. That was this morning around 9 o'clock. I haven't checked back again today. So we just have to be on top of it. And again, if you have elderly relatives or neighbors, look out for them.
So that's the county dosing. Right now, hospitals and health systems are trying to get through all of their supply. And once they're through all of their supply, then I believe we'll start seeing it open up either in doctors' offices, or some of the health systems are working with the county and the state to identify additional vaccination locations and days. But right now, the hospital and health systems are bogged down with trying to get all of their employees vaccinated. So once I think that opens up, then hopefully that will open up opportunities for more of the public to get vaccinated as well. Ms. Barton.
I just want to say, on this day of days, may our nation move forward with peace and unity.
Thank you. Ms. Dottino?
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes, I got a comment. I like for Ray, the chief, and Steph, talk to Fran, our meter man. He want to talk to him about the meters on First Avenue.
We will do so, Councilmember Griffin.
Thank you. Mayor Aronson, do you have any?
Yeah, so in honor of the inauguration today, the county is running a first dog contest. So I'm hoping that we can make one of our Conshohocken dogs the winner. If you have a picture of your dog in anything, you know, America, you know, with the flag or anything with national spirit, you're encouraged to send the picture to treasure@moncopa.org. Pictures will be judged by the sheriff's office and the district attorney's office, and then the first dog will be the picture on the county website for dog licensing. So I'll make sure this gets up on my social media tomorrow.
Great. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Chief Metz, are you on with us this evening?
Yes, ma'am. To Mr. Griffin, yeah, I'm aware of some issues that we've had that were brought to my attention recently with meters and cold weather affecting them, and we are looking into a resolution for that.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and our next meeting is the first Wednesday of February.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Have a good
Night.